I think I got it. I think I got it right, which is amazing. Hey, welcome everybody and those who watch later on. This is Good Low, the Good Low, here with the Endure Entertainment tonight. And I didn't really prepare tonight, but I've been working on stuff all week for school. If you didn't know, I'm working on my master's program in psychology with concentration on drug and alcohol um, addiction. And I still don't particularly like the word addiction, but that is something that I have to deal with because I think it's so misunderstood um, these days, and I always take issue with that. But before I get started today, I wanted to run a commercial for my friend, my buddy, my pastor, minister, a great guy. And this book I can't say enough about. Um, uh, and that's a good thing. I mean, it's amazing. It's called Sound Advice by Corey Thomas. It's CoreyThomasMinistries.com. And let me just run the commercial here. We'll go from
Author Evangelist Corey Thomas, a dedicated servant leader whose weapons are spiritual in nature and volatile in impact. Hot off the press, author Evangelist Corey Thomas's new book, Sound Advice, Music and the Battle for Your Mind, Body, and Soul. Matthew 5:13, ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has lost his flavor, wherewith shall it be salted? It's author Evangelist Corey Thomas's new book, Sound Advice, Music and the Battle for Your Mind, Body, and Soul. Purchase your copy to help maintain that flavor in your spiritual walk. This book is epic. It's sold on every major online bookstore or go to CoreyThomasMinistries.com. I got my copy. Be sure to get yours. It's author Evangelist Corey Thomas's new book, Sound Advice, Music and the Battle for Your Mind, Body, and Soul. Get your copy today.
All right. To get into it, what I want to do is talk about specifically alcohol treatment tonight. And been studying a lot this week I'm taking the Foundations for Addiction Therapy course. And, oh, yes, right here, this book. Foundations in Addiction Counseling. And what I've been getting to is there's such a debate on is it a disease? Is it an affliction? Is it a symptom? I fall into the category of calling it a symptom. And if you don't know my story yet, is I was um, derelict, a problem drinker, someone that chose drinking over everything. I used it to mask anything that was upsetting me. I used it for a long time to deal with my own feelings, depressions, and it ends up that in reality, I was dealing with PTSD from childhood trauma that I'd hidden for basically my entire adult life, more or less. And I ended up getting treatment for the way it started. Is my treatment was for the fact that I was dying. So it was really the therapy started with going through the stages of death and dying, and fortunately, that didn't happen because Jesus had other plans for me, and that's why I'm still here today. Pretty good amount of time now later. I'm approaching 2 years. Well, actually, I'm at a year and a half. So going from there and getting to where I am is it's an amazing journey, and I strongly feel more than anything that my um, healing came and comes from um, just really a true spiritual awakening, and that is a large part of my problem. I find to myself is that my there was nothing there. Like, let me play this video real quick, and I'll show you me in the hospital from. I don't know the exact date. I would say it's in May of 2021. But here you go.
Investigate Linda's case. I said, what is going on here? Was she taking something to poison herself?
All right. That's all 110 pounds of me or somewhere around there. Now I weigh 180 this week. So I always check on my weight because I was so gaunt. Like a size small would fall off of me. And that's what I dealt with for a while. So for me to go from 115 to 180 in a year and a half is a pretty big deal. But that was much needed. So I want to discuss treatments tonight. And I am somebody who um, does not recommend group treatment slash AA as your end all be all um, way to deal with your own addictions. And I find it very just, it's like putting a band aid on. And I said this last night. I was doing another show over on my Facebook, and it's you can go and you can go and you can go and maintain sobriety. By going to the meetings every day, but you're not really, that's just the symptom that you're dealing with. You're constantly dealing with the symptom, and you're never dealing with the factual issues that might be going on. You could have a severe depression, PTSD like me, or chronic PTSD, as they say now, or CPTSD, fancy initials that follow everything. But if you don't deal with that, to me, I don't think you ever start healing. And as somebody that dealt with alcohol is a drug use disorder for 26 years, I do have a right to speak on it. And I've been through treatment centers, rehabs, and the only thing they ever did is, treat my physical addiction, which is it's not easy to treat with alcohol. Alcohol is a very dangerous thing to come off of. I know this week I think he was 28 years old, the former wrestling star Kevin Nash, Big Daddy Cool, or Diesel, I think were all of his names. Him and his son quit drinking together, but they quit cold turkey. And his son had a seizure and died. And I think the kid's name was Tristan Nash. But that's what happens when you really try and do it on your own. Mine, I've had seizures before. I've gone through it. One time I got arrested for something. I have not a clue what for, but it had something to do with drinking, I'm sure. And it ended up being on a weekend. Every time I've ever gotten arrested, it's always been alcohol related, and it's always been on a weekend, meaning that you can't see a judge until like the following week. And I think it was falling on a Tuesday or something. But anyway, between those days, I was so physically addicted to alcohol that I had a seizure and fell down a flight of stairs in Fayette County Detention Center in Lexington, Kentucky. And I don't remember that. I don't remember any of it. But apparently, I was completely out of it and hallucinating for 2 weeks. And it went so far that I got in a fight with a light switch in my solitary holding cell. So that's not stuff to brag about. I can laugh at it now because I'm like, I didn't learn my lesson then. It didn't change anything when I got back out. Guess what? Hit the bottle. And I'm somebody who truly believes that in false idol worship, which my idol and my lack of God stem from. My worship is a bottle. I got to a point I was talking about it with my closest Nurse Beth the other day, and what it boiled down to is I was so scared of running out of alcohol because after I had that seizure that one time, which after that I had many, many more seizures. So I, instead of learning, hey, you don't need to be drinking, I learned to make sure that I never ran out. And that was a huge issue with me, and that's what led me into liver and kidney failure in 2021. And by the grace of God, and I can't say it enough, it is by the grace of God with me. that I'm here walking, talking. I'm living proof of God's miracle in this world, and that's the miracle of life. And to be reborn is an understatement. I'm not a born again Christian. I was reborn literally from the ground up. I wasn't, I'm not supposed to be here. And I can't say it enough. As I pointed to, this is not me being tough. And it irritates me to death when people say, man, you're so tough, you're so strong. No, man, that none of that strength came from me. Not one bit of that strength came from me. That all came from God. So, in getting back to group therapy here, this is important to talk about. Is you know, AA as designed is a group therapy that's really run by a bunch of unlicensed therapists, and it gets to a point of groupthink and group polarization, which is psychology terms. In groupthink, is you've got everybody developing a certain mindset, and that is, it's not a bad mindset per se, but sobriety. Well, that's great when they're going to the meetings, but those that stop going to the meetings, there's only a 15% success rate in all of AA. That's worldwide, a 15% success rate. So you're looking at an 85% failure rate for those that don't keep going. And it's because the bleeding starts back when the band-aid's taken off. And you're very you got one of those clotting problems. And to me, I was never able to clot my wounds without Christ first and foremost, but secondary is the therapy that I went through. And I went through psychotherapy, and and dealt with things that I didn't remember. I said all this last night, but my other podcast is more of not safe for work. And and it's amazing to even fathom that I'm still here myself. And going through the psychotherapy, I mean, I went back through things as a child that I didn't even remember. It just started coming back to me. So that shows you what an amazing creation we are, to have all these suppressed memories and so on and so on. But it really got me to a point where I can say I'm a changed person, but I can say I changed by not changing at all. And that was in a Pearl Jam song from long ago. But what I mean by that is I got back to the person I was created to be, and that would be Diana Gale Combs Napier's son. And from the time I was little, my mom would teach me and say to me that your job in this world is to make the world a better place than the one we came into. And realistically, I think we're all, as a society right now, failing at a large rate to do that. And I'm not supposed to be political, but I am. I'm always going to be. I'm a amateur political scientist, and I look at all the hatred right now and how bad it's gotten in the last 6 years. I know I'm going way off subject from therapy, but it's important. I watched a clip today from Fox News, and if you watch Fox News, to each their own. But this guy was justifying Nancy Pelosi's husband getting hit in the head with a hammer, and said lots of people use hammers as weapons in a fight, which was something like that. I'm paraphrasing, I'm sure, but to me, it's just mind-boggling nonsense. And to justify everything that's wrong and to use the Bible to do that, to me, that's using the Lord's name in vain. And I think that's so convoluted throughout the teachings and changing the narrative to, as Jim and Tammy Faye Baker did, as Joel Osteen does, is to change the narrative to fit your own agenda. And that's, again, it's an issue. And we're not dealing with it. Like, I saw another thing where they were talking about to Putin, and he smirked about nuclear destruction, about taking everybody with him. And he smirked and laughed like that was funny. But you have to understand, when you put people in power that don't have a conscience and are probably very well suffering from some severe mental disorders. I mean, I know Hitler was. I know that Jim Jones was. I know Donald Trump was, and Putin appears to be the same way. Like they don't care who they take with them. And Kim Jong, whatever his name is, over in Korea. But that's a dangerous precedent we set, and it creates total chaos in the group polarization process that is Donald Trump himself said one time that he could go in Times Square and shoot somebody and nobody would do anything about it because he's Donald Trump. That's a very high value of yourself and a lack of God in anything. And it's not the party that I'm against. I think there's plenty of good Republicans out there. But it's more or less the polarization of, somebody that can do no wrong by constantly doing wrong and playing God it's not okay. And that's it on that one. Let's get back to what I'm supposed to be talking about. And that would be healing. The founder of AA, his name was Bill Wilson, co-founder, and he adopted Jelinek. E.W. Jelinek was a guy who created the disease model for addictions. And he himself was a con man. He didn't even have real college degrees that he claimed that he got in Germany during the World War II era. And the big thing is this was Nazi Germany at the time, and he was a Jewish fellow. So, he was very, very discredited and died with more discrediting needing to be done, and it has all been done. His disease model is a failure. It's not accepted in science anymore. And even Bill W., the co-founder of AA, realized it was a disaster because in calling alcoholism a disease, to me is a failure on all of our parts who go through it, because I use that excuse to call it a disease for so many years that I can't remember. It's always not my fault. It was my dad's fault. It's my grandfather's fault. My dad never drank. My grandfather did die of alcoholism, but my brothers both had problems with drugs and alcohol. I don't know about everybody else. My sister, my main sister, I know has never had a problem, and my middle sister has never had a problem. The older one, I don't know, and I don't know. I forgive her, but I don't even know if she exists anymore. With my brothers as well, both rest their souls here, but they both struggled with addictive type personalities. Now, all three of us have been through major trauma. It's not really a secret between the siblings that my dad treated his girls much differently than he treated his boys. And I remember one time at dinner when he was still alive, we were sitting there eating, and he said, he's talking to his girlfriend. He said, Lois, I think was her name. Yeah, that I've always loved my girls more than I love my boys. I'm sitting right there, and I was like, he wasn't saying it to be mean. He was just at that age. I think he was 78, 79. And, I was like, I'm sitting right here, dude. He's like, oh, yeah, sorry. Didn't mean to say that. So he was a very anal person. So I remember taking my dish and just turning it over with food all over the table and then getting on the floor. My dad was like, not about things being dirty and out of place. Military man, fought World War II, went in at 15 years old. That's amazing to even think about now. He was born in 1924, which would make him 99 next year, and obviously had me kind of late in life. But back to it again. So when we go through this Jelinek disease model, and the failure of it that led to AA is the sole reason that addiction is considered a disease at this point. And this was 1956. They pushed and pushed and pushed, and I think it was just kind of, it was going into the generation that was going into the hippie generation and the free love, and during this time, especially, um, LSD and stuff was in its infancy of being studied. LSD, yeah, psilocybin, mushrooms, tobacco, and I'm looking for one more, MDMA, which is commonly known on the street as ecstasy. But all these, even back then, were being studied. And I know the psychotropic value in mushrooms was mescaline, and that was being studied as well. Now, I'm not here pushing drugs, because some people still like to label these as drugs. The reason are dangerous drugs. LSD, for example, and natural mushrooms, and psilocybin and so on are not. They're going to be labeled. I mean, there used to be videos about being scared of these drugs, and how addictive and dangerous they are, and they're creating serial killers and psychosis, which in reality it works the complete opposite. In treatments and medically assisted treatments, which as of now, something to get you more familiar, Suboxone would be a medically assisted treatment. It's supposed to be, but they just hand it out like candy now. And but let's stay true to the facts. Let's talk about LSD. Bill W., the co-founder of AA, he went through LSD treatments himself. They didn't put that into the AA model, though, because during the Nixon administration, especially everything going on, AA, I think, was first really, really made into an organization. I believe, don't quote me on this one, I believe it was around 1935. And but he himself had gone through LSD treatments, and that's how he had his spiritual awakening. But that's not brought up in the 12 steps, which the 12 steps to me are completely archaic. There's a different way to do them as well. There is Celebrate Recovery out there, which I like because that really focuses more on spirituality than it does, finding a whatever. Of your own design. I mean, you can, I say this all the time, but you can worship this microphone, or I can worship this guitar pick, a God of my own design. And I find that to be disastrous, really. But and that goes beyond. I'm not speaking here as a Christian. I'm speaking as a human. I happen to be a Christian, and I think realistically, if you look at this, if you look at marijuana and you look at shrooms and you look at all these other things that are, these are just natural things that come from the earth, and to designate them as a really controlled substance drug, it's a failure on our parts. If you look at psilocybin, for example, just this alone, it has exhibited positive effects, and this is by this is a study by Dr. Gerald J. Kreisman, medical doctor and author, psychiatrist. Anyway, psilocybin has exhibited positive effects in studies on obsessive compulsive disorder, treatment-resistant depression, substance abuse, primarily alcohol and tobacco. There's people who, to go on the side here, who I know have gone through microdosing with medical treatment, medical assisted. That means there's a doctor there and probably a nurse or a PA, or also a therapist, counselor, and so on, because I know you get interviewed during the process of going through the microdosing treatment. And after one treatment, I think it was like an 87% success rate for smoking cessation alone. And Depression, anxiety, especially in cancer patients, have shown the most effectiveness. LSD has shown efficiency in depression, anxiety, especially when related to other medical illnesses. MDMA has shown improvement in anxiety associated with autism and PTSD. Studies are continuing to examine its utility in the treatment of headache and other pain syndromes and anorexia nervosa. And I knew about those. What's one that was really interesting to me is I've never had a migraine in my life, but I have loved ones who suffer with migraines, and really that's one of those things when you can tell somebody's not faking it. The amount of pain I've seen people go through and the nausea, and I'm no medical doctor, but just from witnessing what somebody goes through in a migraine is pretty. It's hard to witness, because if you have any empathy at all, you're sitting there, it's normal to really kind of feel yourself in that person's shoes sometimes, and get realistic. But all right, here's the clinical design. That means in a controlled study, controlled environment, involving the psychedelics includes close supportive psychotherapy, critical introductory cessations, prepare patients. Dosing is carefully monitored under supervision. Follow up integrative sessions are invoked. Although much work needs to be done, especially in the standardization of dosages, these drugs show great promise in the treatment of psychiatric illnesses. Some have quipped, if you remember the 60s, you weren't there. It now appears that remembering and restructuring some of those experimentation of that time will prove productive for future generations. And that goes into the title right there that I said, there's so many what ifs in this. But it's amazing the stuff that were shut down by a presidential administration that stopped these studies for decades. And even though if you go around and you look at these and you start really looking at the studies, the medical facts, it's incredible why this ever stopped. It was, I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy person, but gosh, imagine how many lives this could have. I don't know what happened there, but I was gone for a minute as far as I know. What in the world? Why am I getting things that say, oh, this is not good? Block user. I'm sorry, I was getting some really crass chat. Anyway, so where was I? Ecstasy and Molly, so on and so on. Special K, uh, oh, ayahuasca, a plant concoction containing DMT, dimethylpeptidine. I don't know how to pronounce these. I mean, I could figure it out, but um, current research on the use of psychedelic drugs for various psychiatric disorders has been initiated in major institutions in the U.S. That includes Johns Hopkins, Yale, UC Berkeley, and others, and abroad, Canada, Germany, France, Spain, Mexico, Brazil, and Switzerland. Along with that, recreational marijuana has been legalized in 19 states, Washington, D.C., and Guam, although standardized varieties and dosage forms have not been established. Cannabis for medical use is legal in most states. Medical institutions include treatments for neurotic pain, neuropathic pain, such as related to multiple sclerosis, tremors, and Parkinson's, muscle relaxation, and glaucoma. It has been studied in psychiatry for the treatment of anxiety, depression, and PTSD. Psilocybin is legalized for therapeutic use in Oregon. Ketamine is now FDA approved for the treatment of refractory depression and suicidal impulses. Um, hmm. This is all, if nothing else, it's interesting. It's something to study and look up yourself, and don't listen to me. I know right off the bat that people are going to say, okay, well, now he's, promoting drugs because that's just, he's a former addict or he is an addict. They consider it the disease model that I was talking about earlier through E.W. Jelinek and others. That's incurable. It's a constant uh, revolving door of such. You're never going to get better. You're always going to have cravings. You're always going to have triggers. You can't go out and do this and that. You can't go to a regular restaurant and eat with your family and just all this irresponsible therapy and treatments. When you go into it now you know, as I have, because I'm deep into that. I'm not doing this for myself. And I study as much as I study to assist others. And that's really my dream. My passion is for others not to go through the absolute ignorance that I went through because, it's an easy excuse to say I didn't know any better, but I didn't know all these options. I was always taught in rehabs and recovery centers that there's no hope. So they're trying to tell you that you're not hopeless, but also giving you no hope. There's no hope you'll ever get better. Well, there is faith that you can get better, and for some people, any tools we have to help them restore that faith or have that spiritual awakening, like Bill Wilson had, is worth looking at. And to each their own, but the benefits far outweigh anything else. LSD is not addictive. Shrooms are not addictive. Marijuana is not addictive. Mentally, you can be right there in the middle with marijuana. So yes, marijuana you can get addicted to. You can also get addicted to coffee, cigarettes, alcohol, very easily, and so many other things. It just depends on where you're at your center, your core, what you want out of this world, this life, and moving forward. And I know for me, people have said, "Well, you had a hardcore dose of reality." No, man, I was ready. I was okay with dying. I didn't feel for me. It's the first time in my life, and I was like, you did this to yourself, and that's the way I approached it. I approached death with almost a warm feeling about it. Like, you know what? All this pain is over with. All this mental anguish, all this stuff is over with. Um, and, exhausted, mentally exhausted, and mentally given up. I had given up. I had given up. And another part that I don't mention a lot here is why I'm going for my master's, which more than likely I'm going to end up going for my PhD after that and after I establish. But I've lost several friends in our 40s in the last decade, especially the last decade to suicide. And for me, it's not a morbid curiosity. I know these are great people. I mean, like, it's not the people that are dark that were, always living in the dark like me. These were happy people, fruitful people, and they're gone. And sometimes the pain is much like a Robin Williams or Chris Cornell. You don't see it on the outside because you're so busy into the looking into the factors of, oh, this guy's such a joy to be around. This guy's so happy, so healthy, and he's miserable inside. So if we look into things, like I know for me, is I meditate a lot. I do a lot of prayer. I do a lot of self care. I take a lot of baths. Play with Legos. Play with this psycho. I think I've showed this. No, I don't know if I've showed this one on here before. But this is a. It's not one of those. What do they call them? Fidget spinners that were so popular for a while. But this one is it changes colors. It's a Rubik's cube, and it changes color by touch, but then of course it goes back, and yeah, it makes you insane, but a good kind of insane, like a problem solving insane. All right, so yeah, I stay cold all the time because of my anemia, but that's the way it goes. And to get more into that, I had more to say on this, but again, I didn't prepare tonight. Um, and that's just the way it goes. Let me see. I had this pulled up earlier, so I was seeing if I could find something for you. Psilocybin is okay. And this is from the newest studies in 2021, and these are key points. This is from Dan Major. He's a master's of social work, which is always interesting. I would not want to do social work, and it's because that's a job that is, I can't say enough about people that do social work and nursing. It's really, I think, two in the top 10 of the hardest jobs in America. Not everything is ditch digging or manual labor, which manual labor is taxing as is. I know that. I'm not putting it down. But what I mean by the mental factors in social work and nursing is, you can't be married to your work and expect to do that. You're going to have some heavy losses. And the same thing, well, to a lesser degree of what I'm doing with addictions is, I already, well, I don't believe I'm going to fail. I believe in faith, and I believe that God put me here, back here to do this. But inherently, I know that there's going to be some disappointments along the way. There's going to be some death. There's going to be some self destruction. And I'm blessed to be able to share my journey of getting away from the self destruction and the utter insanity of it all, because it is what it is. When I would drink, I'd always worry about, like I said earlier, running out. But then, that first drink in the morning, I was going to take a couple of sips. I was going to puke. This was standard. And, then once I calmed down from that, take another drink and start getting back up on the up factor so you could feel it going through your veins, if you will. And, that cycle it's insanity because you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. It is what it is. So the title of this article was Ecstasy, Acid, and Shrooms, New Psychiatric Treatments. In the last 50 years, psychiatry has made great strides in the development of therapeutic tools. Now, psychotherapy approaches, new medicines, and new medical device interventions have revolutionized the treatment of many disorders. A current area of research interest is the reexamination of psychedelic drugs and how they might be useful in the treatment of psychiatric disorders. I remember this well, even though I wasn't born then, but the turn on, tune in, and drop out vibe. It was Dr. Timothy Leary that had written a book, and that was basically like his slogan. And this was in the 1960s. It was often associated with bad trips, burnouts, fledgling research, mostly with LSD. And all that ceased in 1973 when the DEA disclassified psilocybin, and that that it has exhibited positive effects in studies on obsessive compulsive disorders, treatment-resistant depression, substance abuse, as I already said. So all this was okay. It was closed up in 1973, but that's it's really what's important. And these, when you take ecstasy, acid, and shrooms, the new psychiatric treatments, psychiatric research has been going on with this since the 1950s. So you're looking at 70 some years now, except for the long period of time I know as a child of the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. all of us, these drugs, as they call them, drugs were bad. We had the DARE program, Nancy Reagan, which is actually, I don't find a lot of faults with that problem. But you go back and you research and you look at, there's some old PSA videos out there, and, I'll have to play one here sometime, but specifically about LSD and marijuana and stuff like that showed these people like actors committing suicide, murders, rapes, and things like that. So they kind of planted a seed for it to be just drugs that created zombies, basically. And that's not necessarily true. Now, you can abuse anything. Even though now in psychiatry and psychology, they're moving away from using the word abuse, which is a newer thing that's coming about. And I don't agree with it, and I don't disagree with it. So, to me, you can, too much of a good thing is always too much of a good thing. So I'll go from there. But I've been all over the place tonight as usual, but that's the way my mind works. When I start thinking about things, I'm thinking about 10 things at once. It generally gets me in trouble with people a lot of times. Like Nurse Beth will think I'm not listening to her and I can repeat everything she said. I once did that in a class in high school, a history class. And the teacher accused me of not listening and said, "Okay, what did I say?" And I repeated everything she said back. Got me put in school suspension. But that's just the way my mind works, and it's a different way. I can do 2 or 3 things at once, and it doesn't make for the best cognitive thought process at times, but it all works out good. But I always like to do a daily devotion on here. And as usual, I just opened it up and turned wherever it opened up to. So this would be day 105 in the Celebrate Recovery 30th Anniversary 365-day devotional. I love this book. Celebrate Recovery is any kind of recovery, whether it's mental, physical, addictions, so on. To me, it helps with everything. Like I've got a really bad knee right now, so anyway. So when I open this up, every time I open it up, I promise you I do not have a plan page going into this, and it just, for somehow, some way, it's always fitting, and it always fits into what I'm thinking and doing and talking about somehow. But day 105 today is Excuses is the title of it. And this would be Psalm 12. I'm sorry. I can't see it. Psalm 121, 1 and 2, King James Version. All right. Which is, I will lift up my eyes onto the hills, for whence cometh my help? My help cometh from the Lord, which has made heaven and earth. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. I really am not wearing my glasses. All right. And the light was all awful now. Okay. Here's the devotion. This was written by somebody anonymously. But again, it always ends up fitting. I don't know how. Well, actually, I think I do, but All right. I don't have the time for this. I really think I'm fine. I have a lot going on right now. I just couldn't commit to something so big. I'm not as bad as the other guys. I'm often tired. I work a lot of hours. Okay. These are just a few of the excuses I've heard from people who aren't yet ready to start changing their lives. George Washington Carver said, 99% of the failures come from people who have the habit of making excuses. That's the truth. It's fitting. It really does fit in right there. And excuses keep us stuck where we are, and we can become very good at using them. I am, for example, a pro at filling up my schedule. It makes me feel better about not doing some of the things I know I should do, such as spending more time with God or praying for my wife and family, serving more in my ministry, going to my meetings, exercising, etc. In my old life, I never had trouble finding the time I needed to deny my character defects, bitterness, resentments, worry, anxiety, fears, and addictive behaviors. However, I quickly realized I wasn't nearly as good at making time for my recovery. That's why a sponsor or accountability partner is so important. We all need someone who can see through our stalling techniques and help us find the courage to live honestly. The prayer for this one is, Father, thank you for placing true friends in my life who will see through my excuses that stall my recovery and keep me from becoming all you created me to be. In Jesus' name, amen. This is perfectly fitting. I mean, perfect fit tonight. It's not, it's exactly what I was talking about, a lot of the stuff. And when I say that, I was literally for years and years and years and years, those excuses that it's not my fault. This is the way I was born. And it's not, there's no truth to it. Because if that were true, I would still struggle with this stuff. Like you hear so many people say, I'm struggling, I'm in recovery, not recovered, I'm in recovery. And I do believe there's a point where, yes, we can be recovered. That goes against popular belief. That's an unpopular opinion. And you know what? I really don't care because I am truthfully living proof of God's miracle in this world. And I don't take that lightly. All praise to Christ, my Lord and Savior, our Lord and Savior. And with that said, I'm going to bid you good night. And I wish everybody the best. Much love and prayers to everybody. And I will see you all next week. Same time.